What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we've got some great RPG news to go over, but before we get into anything, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. And we're starting off with some Xenoblade Chronicles 3 news as we barrel towards that July 29th release date. Monolith Soft and Nintendo have been revealing more information about the game, the characters, combat, and more. So let's go ahead and jump into the first thing here, which was translated by the unofficial Xenoblade Chronicles account, looking at the official Xenoblade Chronicles account via Twitter. So, by meeting certain conditions, you can change classes, which we've discussed before on this channel. By changing from Sword Fighter to Zephyr, you can change from an attacker to a defender. You can change classes at any time, so give it a try. So with the change of classes, it does give you the ability to use different talent arts. So you definitely want to make sure that you change classes, learn different things, and then mix and match, because it can create a more deadly fighter. So I do love this system, and I've talked about it before in previous Xenoblade Chronicles games. I think that every single time that they make a new Xenoblade game, it always has the same general outline in terms of how the battle mechanics kind of work, but there's various different things that they throw into the mix to make things completely different, to where this can really be the difference between someone actually liking a Xenoblade game combat wise and not liking it. I mean, it really is that small of a thing. So I think that this type of change, where you have classes and you can switch between them and have different skills and you can hold them over, I think this could get a lot more people interested in this game than in previous games, because I think this might be the best Xenoblade gimmick that they've had that will appeal to more people, probably since Xenoblade X or the original Xenoblade, with being able to see the future with the Monado. So I do love what they're doing here, being able to change the classes and everything. Now, let's go ahead and get into this next thing here, and that's some brand new gameplay footage, which is looking absolutely crisp and amazing, and also talking about a little bit of an advanced skill in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So, if you use another art at the right timing, when another hits, it will smoothly cancel into the next. This is called attack canceling, and when successfully executed, a glowing ring will appear around the user. This builds the chain attack gauge, so be aggressive, which I love this because the chain gauge is something that's very important in Xenoblade games, especially when fighting some more of the tougher bosses. Chain attacks can give you all sorts of buffs and benefits after you've successfully executed one, so it's definitely important to make sure that you are filling up that chain gauge attack and you are making sure to destroy your enemies that way. I love the little light that goes around you after you've successfully executed a perfect attack cancel, and I think that this is going to be a key factor in making sure that the combat feels really good to play, and also fun with depth as well. So if you're looking at it, things are just being layered on top of it. We've seen the chain attack a little bit, we've seen the class changes, now we're looking at the attack canceling. So this is very good for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this game. Like, it is coming up, it's already going to be next month. I know it's by the end of next month, and we do have quite a number of games that are coming out in between now at this point in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which is definitely good for gamers out there. It's going to be packed with Mario Strikers and everything, and Live Alive, and Digimon Survive, and Fire Emblem. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, you know, coming out, and I'm very excited. I'm very, very excited, especially for Live Alive. I think that game's going to be really cool. I'm going to try to just run through it the week before Xenoblade comes out. But awesome stuff here from Monolith Soft, and I'm going to continue covering all the latest updates for the game, because this just looks absolutely incredible, and I'm extremely proud of what Monolith Soft has been able to accomplish here on the Nintendo Switch. So, what are your thoughts on the latest details when it comes to Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, we have a little bit of a discussion, and this is something that I want to piggyback off of from what I discussed before about how I personally feel that Square Enix has completely has missed the mark, or a missed opportunity with something to do with Final Fantasy 16. And I want to explain this very clearly, because after we got that new, I think it was like Domination or Dominance trailer, yeah, Dominance trailer at the State of Play, there's been a lot of opinions on the direction of Final Fantasy going forward, and I don't think that this is necessarily a bad thing when it comes to how Final Fantasy is progressing. I think that this new Final Fantasy game, they're pretty much going towards what the audience wants and where the money is, right? So Sony's willing to offer them $1 bazillion to have an exclusive console exclusive on the PlayStation 5 to boost their system, which is fine. So you're going to have to actually modify and kind of change the game that the people on that system want to play. Obviously, Japan is not as big of an emphasis anymore for Sony. It's moving towards the Western market. So I think that they're taking a lot of things that the Western market likes, like stuff like Dark Souls and stuff like Devil May Cry and stuff like that, right? That's really good. And single man RPGs, you know, God of War, whatever the case is, taking all of those things and they're kind of all putting it together and putting a whole load of Final Fantasy on top of it, right? A whole bunch of summons and obviously the graphics and everything. And I can see the direction for this title. You want to make the game look beautiful on the PlayStation 5. You want to make it look seamless and everything. Well, you don't really necessarily need a party if you're going to do that, right? Just make one character that's really awesome, or maybe there's more characters you can use, but for right now, it's just one character. So almost like a Devil May Cry type of situation, and they even got the combat director from Devil May Cry. He's the one who's doing the combat here, so that's where the similarities come from, and I'm actually not upset with that. At first, I didn't know how to think about it, but I've actually adjusted. I'm like, hey, if I just treat it like this is a really cool or different style of Devil May Cry game, more of an RPG, I'm completely fine because the combat looks great. People are just looking at it from a Final Fantasy standpoint, but here is where I think that they missed the mark with Final Fantasy 16 and a little bit of tunnel vision in my opinion. And what I mean by tunnel vision is that they could have easily, since they've known they're going to take this direction with Final Fantasy 16, they should have been making a huge traditional based Final Fantasy game. They could have had a three-headed monster when it comes to Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and also a regular or traditional style Final Fantasy game along with that. I personally feel that the Nintendo Switch would have been perfect for this type of game. And listen, it's been done before, or at least companies have done it. If you look at Capcom, while there isn't a traditional Monster Hunter, they were making Monster Hunter World, which is a huge PlayStation, Xbox game, PC and everything, and also Monster Hunter Rise right around the same time. There was some overlap. Obviously, World came out way before Rise, but we knew that Rise had been in development for quite a number of years because they were planning that big type of game in addition to previous ports of Monster Hunter games coming over to the Nintendo Switch, like the Monster Hunter Generations and everything. So I think that there's a huge missed opportunity with Final Fantasy 16 and having something that's kind of like a companion piece, something that's a bit different to say, hey, this is not Final Fantasy 16, or for those who maybe aren't interested in this type of game, we have this more traditional, or we have this more modern edge / traditional Final Fantasy game for you. And it pretty much just drives up my own opinion that they should really look into that. And I know that they have Bravely Default and Octopath Traveler, but those games are more of their own thing now at this point because it's so rooted or based off of the old school Final Fantasy and jobs. But the whole Brave and Default system, that's something that's unique to that series, with Bravely Default and then of course with Octopath kind of looking at that from the 3DS game. So I don't feel that it's the same thing. So I just think that Square Enix just missed the mark here. They missed the mark not with the game. The game is great, but if they were going to go in this direction, there should have been something else instead of having a little bit of tunnel vision only on this style. But that's my opinion. I still think that this game, the more that I watch the trailer, because I've watched it a million times now at this point, the more that I watch it, the more that I think that it's actually going to be really good and it's going to be fun if you just treat it as like a very cool or different style of Devil May Cry or Bayonetta style game from what we've seen so far. And if you look at it that way, it's awesome. And obviously Final Fantasy, it's been changing. People have talked about that, and I know that it's not necessarily a party based and everything, and that is a little bit of concern for me. But at the end of the day, they're going in this new direction, and it's probably going to be a good game based on who's working on it, based on who they have lined up, based on how long it's been taking. It's probably going to be a solid game regardless, and probably launch better than what Final Fantasy 15 did. So, I mean, that's all we can ask for. You're not always going to have every single game go the way that you want it to go exactly, but as long as it turns out to be a really solid or good game, I can accept that, and that's completely fine. I just wish that Square Enix also had that other thing to kind of just supplement it, and I think that would have been awesome. But hey, it is what it is. We'll see what happens in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Final Fantasy 16. I'm actually getting kind of hyped for it, but I know it's not for like another year, so I better just calm down just a bit. But what are your thoughts on this, guys? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. We've got a very interesting game that's been announced for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and PC. It's a dating action game called Eternights. So let's talk about this. So Studio Sai has announced a dating action game, Eternights, for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, PC, via Steam and Epic Game Store, and it will launch in early 2023. So this is a dating action game blending a love story with adrenaline-driven combat as you make the most out of life during the apocalypse, scavenge for supplies, explore dungeons, and go on dates. I mean, look, the world is falling all around you. You're gonna have to find out how you're gonna get a date with Sakura over there or something like that. So save the world and find love along the way. So here are the key features in the game. Face the infected. One day, something or someone has turned humans into dangerous monsters. All that interests them now is violence and power. They are what stand between you, a cure, and the world you want. Most importantly, you're fighting for more than just your own survival. You are fighting for those you love. You can also find love. Speaking of it, the impending end of the world makes for a great conversation starter. When you're not exploring dungeons, you can choose to spend time growing closer to a cast of 5 quirky and lovable characters, explore their stories, and grow closer to them to unlock unique skills and spells you can use in battle. Race the clock, scavenging, dungeon crawling, dating. There are just too many things to do in one day, and each area has a deadline. You will grow closer to your confidant in order to deepen your relationship and unlock new skills. Will you scavenge the wasteland for supplies? Will you grow stronger by training with your companions? Or will you ignore all of that and go to the dungeon the first chance you get? It's up to you, but remember, the clock is ticking. I'm not necessarily a fan of when they start putting time restraints and all that type of stuff on leveling and what you do and all that. Not the biggest fan of that, but the developer did say that he was inspired by Persona 4 and Persona 5, so it makes a bit of sense there. So you can also explore dungeons. Speaking of those dungeons, the dangerous areas known as the Wall are filled with mystery and danger. As the deadline looms, you will have to quickly overcome traps, puzzles, and dancing mini-games to make it through in time. Dancing mini-games, huh? So luckily, you have your confidants by your side to help when things get scary. Also, animated cutscenes. There are several fully 2D animated cutscenes that change depending on who you decide to date. Immerse yourself and truly connect with the characters you are spending time with. So this is a very interesting game, and I'm telling you, like, the emo people are gonna go absolutely nuts for this type of game, I think, at this point. But it actually looks pretty cool as like a AA style of game. I mean, if you're into Persona, I think that this game will probably be pretty cool. It's like they also blend a little bit of Nahobino with his like sword arm blade thingy that he has as well. But no, it actually looks really good, and I think that it's going to be a solid game on PlayStation 5 when it comes out, but we're gonna have to wait and see for it. But I think that the interesting thing about this game is that, like, Sony felt pretty confident about it to show it off at this state of play. And honestly, like, I like the fact that Persona 5 Royal and Persona 4 are inspiring other types of developers to kind of make different types of action and dating type of sims and things like that. I mean, we've seen a little bit of it, but probably nothing on this scale after Persona 5 Royal and everything. So very cool nonetheless. So what are your thoughts on all the different topics that we discussed here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.